My name is Nancy Vedra, and I live in Lamont.
And I'm Kent Vedra, Nancy's husband, and of course I live in Lamont as well.
Well, I had the misfortune to have been hit behind by a bus and seriously injured. I was out of work for 3 months. I was unable to. My husband, who was ill at the time, and my father, who was dying. And so we came to Dixon Law Office to find out about the litigation process and what we could do to make things whole. We found the staff to be incredibly warm. They answered all of our questions. They conveyed messages to Grant. Our questions were promptly answered, calls returned. We found them to be extremely helpful.
Well, I was working late that night, and which I occasionally did. Nancy would come in on the train. She works downtown Chicago, and I work out in Downers Grove. And our rendezvous point was LaGrange, and the LaGrange train station. We've been doing that for about 10 years. I would take her there in the morning, pick her up in the evening. So I called her by cell phone and said, I'm running late. So our routine was for her to go across the street to Borders from the train station and wait for me, read a book or have a cup of coffee or something like that. Unfortunately, I got a phone call when I was stuck in traffic, and it was a policeman saying that your wife had been struck by a bus. The bus had been speeding, had taken an unusual route, and my wife, Nancy, was struck from behind, and the way it was described later that came out in the courtroom was that it was like watching something on a movie set. She actually went airborne for a moment.
Well, it was difficult to relive the whole process. From the beginning, I wanted my life back as it was before the bus made contact with me. I didn't find the process as fearful as I thought it would be. I would say that Grant anticipated my fears and answered my questions before I even asked them. And so, surprisingly, for me, it went far better than I expected.
In my case, Grant is like having your best friend represent you. He was very compassionate, understood the situation, and during the long process, I think, which was about 2.5 years before we went to court, he really knew the facts of our case. What I particularly appreciated about Grant was, since I have a engineering and a financial background, I appreciated his attention to detail. At the scene of the accident later on, he measured with a tape measure distances, he timed the lights, and so on. So that's one thing I really appreciated. We had, through a friend, I had gone to another law firm, and it was quite a large one, and I didn't find the interest in our case that I discovered along with Nancy and Grant's compassion, as I say, and interest in our case. So that's why we chose Grant.
I would say that what first struck us was Grant's sincerity and the sincerity of all of his staff, how extremely well prepared he was when he took our case to trial. And certainly the judge in our case was very clear and able to understand by Grant's presentations and his exhibits what I had gone through and what we had lost, and made her judgment accordingly. We did end up going to trial and getting a verdict in our case. Grant took us down to the courtrooms, explained to us what would possibly happen, when it would happen, how it would happen. We felt very comfortable on the witness stand. And of course, as I indicated, the judge found in our favor very strongly.
Well, it wasn't about money. It was about having someone hear our case. We tried to settle out of court, but we really felt that, if nothing financially comes out of this, we wanted our case to be heard because it really dealt with negligence. It's an unfortunate situation, and I think there were improvements that need to be made by the company that brought upon all this on us. So it was really just getting to our case heard, and maybe in the future policies of these agencies being changed, a bus agency in particular.
When something like this happens to an individual, it happens out of the blue. Your life, as you knew it, is thrown into chaos. What I found when we met with Grant and his staff is structure and a plan and how to go about that plan and what the anticipated outcome would be. And it gave me some measure of peace during the process and most certainly after the process.
One of the things I really appreciated was how well not only Grant prepared us, but he let us speak in our own words. He didn't give us a dialogue to follow or anything like that. And what I was really impressed with that during the trial was Grant's opening arguments as well as his very compelling closing arguments. He had exhibits, he knew his material, he didn't have to refer to notes very often, and he got it all in. He's just extremely well prepared, and that actually made us feel very relaxed.
What I remember most, or one of the things I remember most, is how Grant involved us in the decision-making process. It made us feel that we had control over what was about to happen. And that was very important because the accident put our lives totally out of control.